Okay, well, I'm Dana Robbat with the Friends of Modern Architecture. It is October 28th, 2021, and we are here with Jonathan Ammen, who has just sold the family home, has lived in the house for over 60 years. The house was built in 1955, I believe.
Was finished in 55. It was started in probably the spring of 54, I think.
And it is located at 64 Baker Bridge Road, neighboring the Gropius house and land.
Yes.
And Jonathan, I was wondering what brought your parents out here.
Well, my dad was a mechanical engineer working in, I think at that time he was working for either Draper or another manufacturing company in the area. They had an apartment in Concord for a while, and then they rented the house on the corner of Baker Bridge and Granville Road.
Oh.
There's a yellow house down there. And that was where they lived when I was born. And at that time, I guess shortly after they had moved, or sometime around the time that they had moved in there, Mrs. Starro died. And so her lands, including the Starro orchards, which is what all this was, were divvied up. And so a bunch of different parcels came up for sale, and they said, well, we'll take that one.
And then the choice of the architect, how did they, do you know how they?
I don't know how they came across the architect. I mean, no, they never told me about that. They did tell me about how they decided to place the house here. They had a chat with the across the street neighbor, who was Walter Gropius, and they all came walking up the hill and decided together, okay, well, this would be the best place to put the house.
Yeah.
And
it's beautifully sited.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
And then they had, I guess they found this guy Koch, and my dad had very much wanted to have a modern house, and having grown up in very traditional older architecture, and wanted a modern place and wanted to be out in the boondocks, which this was way out in the boondocks then.
Yeah.
And so they found Koch one way or another, and asked him to do some concept elevations. And so perhaps we'll find the drawing later, but he did a basic drawing, and my dad said, perfect, build that.
Huh. So it wasn't a tech-built house. It wasn't one of the standardized tech-built. And was your father, did he study at MIT?
No.
By any chance?
He studied at Yale.
Okay.
He was a mechanical engineer, and ultimately he created a company that makes gears, high precision gears and gear drive systems, and so that was what he did. He went to Yale during the Second World War, and went through Yale in 2 years. Actually, he was in the Navy, and Yale had been taken over by the Navy because they didn't have enough room to train officers at Annapolis, and so they took over Yale and maybe another university. Anyway, he got into Yale already, and they said, well, okay, you stay there at Yale and you'll be in this training program. They were in uniform and studied round the clock and finished his engineering degree in 2 years.
Wow. Well, Koch had served in the Navy as well.
Interesting.
And then he was doing research at MIT with John Richardson Bemis, whose father had established a housing research lab at MIT.
Oh, okay.
And Koch was working with him, so I didn't know if your father might have interfaced with him there, but
I don't know.
He was
it's
around
possible.
A lot.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know when the Draper Labs were started, but my family had some. Her paternal great grandfather was the CEO of Draper, and so it's possible that they could have connected him up that way.
It was a small world then, an in world then, and your mother, was she interested in a particular field or hobby?
She had studied as a biologist, but she didn't work. You know, she was my mom and took care of the house.
Now, do you have memories of Gropius or Koch as personalities?
Never met Koch that I knew of. I mean, maybe I did, but you know, I was an infant at that point. But Gropius, sure. I mean, he was our driveway originally ran right along next to his house, and so I, waved to him, or, "Hi, Mr. Gropius," and he'd be out in his yard doing something, and he was, a friendly enough older guy.
Yeah.
And, that was-
What favorite rooms in the house or aspects of the house did your family gather in one room usually?
We spent most of our time in this room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
like
Originally,
a great room.
the dining room there was semi-separated from the kitchen side, and with cupboards and a pass-through and a door. So it was either the kitchen or the living room.
Was it always a step-down kitchen?
It was always a step down. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've always liked the fact that the house is heated by radiant heat. It originally was radiant in the floor and in the ceiling. Now it's just still active in the ceiling. And, so it was always pretty comfy. Though single pane glass does mean it's not as comfy as it might be if it was double pane glass.
Yeah. Any other aspects of the house that did work particularly well or did not work particularly well? Koch was very experimental, so I was wondering if there were any
Well, I think he was
experimental
very
elements in the house.
At one point, well, there were some things that were different. For instance, this wall over here, with the pine tree painted on it, had clapboards on it, just like the outside.
Yeah.
As did that main wall in the dining room. It was the same color, and at that point it was cedar brown clapboards. So they were just really playing with the interior-exterior idea. And I didn't like it, so I took the clapboards down. And I also didn't like the separation between kitchen and dining room. So I changed the wall there.
So nice and open.
Originally, the patio was much smaller outside, and the patio had the exact same footprint as the house. And there was an upper patio and lower patio, and they were bricked. And they had the same footprint as the house. So it was basically like a space that was divided in half by a glass curtain, and half of it was enclosed and half of it wasn't.
Oh, that's wonderful. And the two levels?
The two levels
patio-
were always like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the upper level like this room and the lower level like the kitchen
Yeah,
dining room area.
Yeah, as you can see, maybe you'll take a picture of it later, but the brick wall that, as you go down, extends right through the glass and out into the patio.
Nice.
And I extended the stone wall further. It had originally been done in railroad ties.
Mhm.
And the railroad ties actually had been, my family salvaged them when they were taking up the railroad ties on the B&M line that goes along here.
Yeah.
And my mom went down and noticed one day that there were all these piles of railroad ties, and asked, well, gee, could we have some of those? And they said, well, sure, come by tomorrow afternoon, we'll bring some over.
Fabulous.
They brought a whole rail car.
Fabulous.
So my folks and a bunch of other people in town, came and took load after load of these railroad ties, and they used them for lots of landscaping construction around. And in fact, the railroad ties in the walkway going down the steps there are those original railroad ties, and they're chestnut.
Really?
They're chestnut because the number of years before, I don't know the service life of a railroad tie, but they were ending their service life in 1954, 55, and that was just long enough after the chestnut blight had killed so many American chestnuts, and so they had all this extra wood. What were they going to do with it? They made railroad ties.
Yeah.
So
that
now some of those
just-
are still here. Anyway, so we were talking about Koch and his experimental stuff. So the interior-exterior play. He experimented with insulation. That dining room wall was originally insulated with what looked like an accordion of paper and tinfoil. It was horrendous. It didn't work.
The inside of the wall.
The inside of the wall. It didn't have insulation bats. It had this other stuff that just didn't work. I guess the idea was that it would be reflective. Instead
Or
of-
was it for sound as well, do you think? Or no? Just
No, because it was enclosed in the wall. It was this flimsy paper
Yeah.
stuff that wouldn't have
Yeah.
really made much difference for sound.
mhm.
So I'm trying to think of other experimental things. I mean, the heating was relatively experimental at that point. It's 3/8 inch refrigeration tubing encased in a thick layer of base coat plaster and then surface coat on top of that.
So it's plastic tubing?
No,
Did
it's 3/8 inch copper.
Oh, copper tubing.
Yeah.
Refrigeration.
Yeah, there's some parts of the house in which I personally replaced the radiant floor, and that's with plastic, the modern PEX plastic tubing. But originally it was black iron pipes poured into the concrete, and that failed.
Yeah.
Had to be replaced.
Yeah.
I remember our next door neighbor, Peggy Elliott, she used to produce plays a lot and was involved with the players in Concord, and they actually even sort of built a stage and had sort of a bowl-shaped area of their yard and had some outdoor production there.
Did they?
So that was
Let's
good.
see. And have the trees grown up quite a bit since
Oh, sure.
you were little? It was probably
I mean,
much more open.
At least 50 years.
Yeah.
They were smaller and fewer.
Yeah.
And this place was absolutely xeriscaped before
natural.
xeriscape was invented. In other words, they did nothing.
All natural.
All natural. They cut down as few trees as possible. And in fact, the area between the kitchen and the dining room used to have a huge twin oak coming up in there, and because they obviously built right around it. And,
Inside the house.
not inside the house,
Oh,
but in the
between-
space
I see,
outdoors
between there.
between the kitchen and the garage.
Ah.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And then there was another one right in the middle of the patio there. And they were huge, and they needed to come down. They were
Yeah.
too risky. And even so, we still had trees fall in the house.
Yeah, well, and in a number of Lincoln houses, there are rock outcroppings within the house. Did you have any friends or
Yes.
family friends who you remember that in
Yes,
their
I do.
homes?
The neighbors immediately next door. It's not a modern
Peggy?
house, but they're
Oh.
no. Now the Gefters. The basement of that house used to have a ledge in it. And that's ledge right just outside the window right
Yeah,
there.
it's a beautiful setting.
Yeah. There's ledge, but I mean, this is the geology here is mostly drumlins, so it's glacial moraine. It's all gravel and why you get this unique shape.
Are there any special stories that that come to mind about living in a modern house or your modern friends? Did Lincoln appear different to you from other towns that you had
Well,
friends
certainly
living in?
there's lots of modern houses, and it was kind of novel for me going away to high school. I went away to a boarding school and to live in Tudor architecture, or to have all these other old houses that I got to live in, or in college in Vermont, living in apartment buildings. That was kind of different. This is obviously what I grew up thinking of as what a house is.
Yeah.
Much later, I think I've come to decide that I'm less a fan of modern architecture.
And I would love to hear about
And
that.
my wife and I used to joke that there was absolutely nothing wrong with this house that we couldn't fix with a bulldozer.
Well, tell us more. What happened?
Well, no, we just
Yeah.
decided we weren't going to fix it with a bulldozer,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we didn't. It's
Yeah.
it's wonderful as it is.
Yeah.
So, what else about living here? One of my family's great activities was motor racing. So my dad was a car racer, and so that really took up afternoons and evenings after
Where
he would
does
come
one
home
do
from
that?
work. And I'll get there.
Oh, okay.
And, the large garage that we have was so that we could build the cars and service them in there. And weekends during the warmer season, we're all going off to the car races, and that was Connecticut. Thompson, Connecticut was one of the original ones. Lime Rock, Connecticut is a fairly well-known one. Loudon, New Hampshire, but all over the eastern seaboard, and even as far out as into California. He raced nationally, and for 20, 30 years. One of our family friends was Paul Newman, who also raced in those same kind of circuits, and we used to do some work for him and for his cars. And I don't know if anybody not many people know it about Paul Newman, but he was really a car racer with a side job as an actor.
Yeah.
That was the way he perceived
loved it.
himself.
Yeah.
And he was just, more at ease in that world
Mm,
than
that's
he was in
interesting.
the world of acting. Just another normal guy. So that was a big piece of family life here.
And who designed the garage for this?
I think that was Walter
hobby?
Hill. It was another firm in Cambridge, I think.
Mhm.
And actually, he was a Lincolnite, and I remember going to school with his daughter.
Mm.
So
Do you remember the encounters your dad had with him, designing,
don't.
laying out the garage and the?
no, but I do remember there was a decision about how are we going to handle the line of the roof? Do we bring it down and then do a up and down? Do we have a butterfly roof? How do we do it? And I said we should do the butterfly roof, and that's what they did.
Good decision.
Of course, it was all tar and gravel roof, which actually served us well, surprisingly, under the circumstances. It's not the right climate for a tar and gravel roof, but it lasted pretty well. It was replaced once, or not replaced, but another layer was put on. And then just this past May, we switched it over to the rubber roof, because a tree that we can look at later broke off and landed on the garage and broke the roof. So it was time for a new one.
Wow. I don't know the layout of the house. I don't know if we want to walk around the house
Shall
a
we
little
do?
bit. And
Sure.
how many bedrooms is the house?
There's 3 bedrooms
Mhm.
and 3 bathrooms. So
Wow,
right
very
now,
nice.
the way we have it configured, it's basically 3 bedrooms with ensuite
Oh.
bathrooms.
Great. That's unusual for the 50s. Or
Well,
in
at
New
the ti-
England.
In the 50s, originally it was built with basically 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And then there was an addition put on that added 3 more bedrooms and 1 bath. And when I moved in here, I converted 2 of those bedrooms into 1. And then the other bedroom was just sort of a side room and not used as a bedroom. So it could be called a bedroom, but I'm not calling it that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
shall we go have a look?
Yeah, that would be great.
So this room, I knew that we were going to be spending so much time in it that I wanted to replace the radiant floor. So this has a radiant floor. Originally it was concrete with black iron, and so then there's the layer of plywood with the tubing in it, and then tile on top of that. And there was a swinging door here, and then a set of cupboards and a pass-through counter here at the dining room. So it's much more enclosed kind of kitchen.
I see.
This was that poorly insulated wall. And as far as the windows go, my dad always explained that he was an engineer, made a calculation of how much it was going to cost to put double pane glass as opposed to single pane glass, and the cost of fuel, the difference
He
in use of
calculated
fuel.
all that,
He
love
calculated that he would never make up the difference in the life of the house.
Well, that's great to know for a lot of our modern house owners. That's amazing.
And then, as the son of an engineer, I did the same calculation when I bought the house 25 years ago, and it was even worse outcome because the price of replacing the windows, the price of fuel was all skewed. So, and the bricks they found, they were antique bricks. They were found. They were perhaps from some colonial or other very old home in the area, and because they just liked the view or liked the appearance of the bricks.
Variegated kind of bricks. Between here and there.
Oh, great question. These cupboards that are here now are, I designed them and had them made. Originally there was a very low bench. It was about that high. And the top was about that thick. It was made of oak slats that were continuous, and it had fluorescent light under it that could shine down here. It had little legs, about like that, so it's a flat top piece.
So it's like a banquette? A banquette?
I don't know that
Built in?
word.
Like
but-
seating with
Well, it was basically just
kind
a
of
bench.
a
You
little
could
top.
sit there.
Yeah.
But it was just a visual barrier, but it's much lower than this, between the upper and lower space. And for me, didn't work.
Yeah, so,
And so
I mean,
so
one
built
could
this.
crawl up from that and just go right to the floor then, it wasn't,
You could.
Yeah, it was
You could,
pretty
you could
low.
crawl right
Yeah.
under it.
aha,
In fact, when my son was an infant, I made plexiglass barrier along underneath it so he couldn't crawl over and fall off the edge.
yeah, it sounds like a child magnet.
It was, yeah, not childproof.
Yeah, and this is the original glass in
It's all the
here,
original.
just, yeah. And so when
Actually,
you,
not these windows. These were replaced. And in fact, originally, this wall was all cupboards.
oh, no windows
There were
there?
no windows there. It's just cupboards. And this wall were sliding plywood doors.
So Walter Hill designed this stepped walkway down to the,
No, that was original. That was Koch.
okay,
Yeah, the step walkway down to the carport was original. And then they made the carport into a two-car garage. At the same time that they added the bedrooms down at the other end here.
Mhm.
And then they added the second two-car garage
Mhm.
with a basement space underneath it
ah,
some years ago. So this little section of sort of garden in the floor is what remains of a garden in the floor that came all the way along to here. And all of the things that I built here are built with wood that I cut myself from this land.
really?
So this bathroom that I'll show you next is
Yeah.
all wood that was cut from these trees that I climbed on.
Oh, so you're a real woodworker.
I am.
And where did you learn that skill?
Out in the garage.
Just,
You know,
Tinkering.
I went to the Lincoln School, and we had a wonderful shop class. And
who was the shop teacher?
I wish I could
Remember?
remember, but
Yeah.
everybody
I know,
remembers
I
him.
remember hearing about him.
And I was, I guess, a star pupil. I went through all the projects, and then they gave me some more, and then I finally actually made a kayak.
Ah,
I think I was the only one to ever do that. He had a model of a kayak and frame, and I said, I want to do that. So we did.
Good for you.
Anyway, let's do the bathroom.
Yeah, let's see your beautiful woodwork.
So this was the original master bath, and it's mostly different now.
Is that white oak or red oak?
This
I
is
was
red oak.
curious.
This is all red oak. Yeah,
And is that the original cabinet?
that's the original cabinet.
Boy,
Yeah.
it's
And
beautiful.
there's a toilet paper holder.
Yeah.
all
Looks-
like that. Behind the camera is the original built-in bureau. It also had cupboards up above, came to about here with the mirror in the back, so it was completely useless for me because I would have to go down like that to see the mirror. So, but these are all original.
Jonathan, just looking out this window, does your land abut the Gropius house land?
It does. Gropius house is down that way.
Oh,
And, you know, it immediately abuts. It's sort of a big pork chop shape, and he's in the corner of the pork chop.
and do you know who carved out the lots?
No.
Okay, I was just curious. They're beautifully done. Yeah. Okay.
They were beautifully done. There's an interesting story, though, that happened. There's a house up here at the top of the hill. And that house up at the top of the hill is on a plot of land that was discovered by one of our other neighbors who lived at the house at the very end of Woods End Road. He worked in a bank, and there was some survey that was done, perhaps for, I don't know what the purpose was, but he did a survey. It was land abutting his own, and he took it. Basically, he claimed it and said it was his own and sold it. And then that house was built.
Oh,
So
what year was that?
that was late 60s, 70s, maybe, in the 70s, I think. It was a little, people were a little less than happy about that.
And fewer regulations, I suppose.
I suppose. I don't know how he did it.
Guess.
It was
Yeah.
originally a surveyor's mistake, or somebody had not mapped the territory properly, and so there was this portion that could be claimed.
That's amazing.
Repurposed. I was sad because they cut into the hill to make a pad for it. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, okay.
So this was my room growing up originally, and there was a wall here, so it was that wide, and then this was a guest room. It was actually a hallway that went that way, and 3 doors, 1, 2, 3. But then, so I took these rooms and made it into this new master bedroom. And it did not have a sliding door there. It had windows just like the ones to the left of the camera, and but I installed that in keeping with the let's have an exterior door everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and a tree right beyond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of shoehorned in. So,
And the triangular window
the
that,
triangular
yes, that
window.
we're all dying to hear about. What?
well, there's a lot of use of lights like that in this house, and particularly down at this end of the house. And so I thought it would be nice to do that, to put one there. And my wife Heather thought it would be amusing to put a goofy shape there, and so she took masking tape up and said, do it like this. So that's not original. That's a bit of visual humor.
The owner creativity. Great.
That we did. And it was originally, it's framed in the same oak that I harvested from the trees here, but it got painted over. So
Neat.
this was actually the end of the house. The original end of the house was in here. The house came here.
The original house
Right.
stopped right there.
And everything from me out is an addition. This was an exterior door.
Of course.
This was a hallway, and this was my bedroom originally. But now it's been made into a dressing room and connects to a bathroom there.
Nice.
Let's go around the corner. This size and style of tile was pretty common when the house was made, and the same sort of shape of tile was here, but they were an unglazed porcelain solid tile originally, and then I did this tiling. This is the only room in the house with a skylight, which is up there. Anyway.
Original, or did you put it in?
It was original.
Oh,
Okay.
Jonathan, this is wood that you put in all the floors.
No, I didn't do the
No.
floors. The
Yeah.
floors and the floors are
That's a
recent.
lot.
We just installed the wood floors within the last couple of months. That was one of the ways to spiff it up to sell it. It was originally just concrete. This one had linoleum. Actually, the bedrooms all had linoleum tiles on top of the concrete. But they were originally radiant, so it was quite comfy. Now the radiant floor in this part of the house is replaced with these baseboards.
By the way, did the living room, was that tile or was that a concrete floor?
Just concrete. Yeah. Well, so it was a bit annoying to have to shovel all that. It's a long walkway up, but it was nice to have the overhang over the walkway. It made it much nicer than being exposed. Used to keep firewood along the front of the house here. This was the original kids' bathroom.
But that was the original walkway that Koch designed down to the carport that's now enclosed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was originally a carport with the same angled roof. Then it was built into a 2-car garage, and then another 2-car garage was added on. We'll go down there and look at that. So this is the furnace room. There originally was an oil boiler here. Now this is updated to a propane-fired boiler that has a sensor going outside so that it adjusts the water temperature automatically according to the exterior temperature, and then that automatically goes into the flooring. So it reduces the need for thermostats. We have them, but it could be set up to run without them and still keep a pretty steady temperature inside. You could see, probably up over there most easily, where all these copper pipes go, and then the tubing goes right up into the ceiling. That's where the ceiling coils are that produce the radiant heat.
And the house was built on a slab, so this is the furnace room for the
Right,
for
yeah,
the
there's no
home.
basement.
And I must say, the house looks very well built.
I think it was,
It
yeah.
seems like a very solid
It was
house.
the contractor's name was Carl Koch,
Mhm.
and I heard that he was very well thought of in the area. Alrighty. So yeah, I mean, this is the first of the garage doors, or this side was built first, and my dad used to keep his Porsche in there before he was a car racer, and then it was built as a garage. And actually, recently when I was renovating to get it ready for sale, the garage door openers needed to be replaced, and the garage door company came in and said, oh, well, you can't use modern garage door openers with those doors. They're too heavy. And the modern garage door openers aren't built strongly enough to handle that. You're going to have to replace those doors.
Oh.
That'll be $5,000, please. And my response was, get a commercial garage door opener. And so that's what they did. And that's your cue.
Yeah.
But these doors saw a lot of use. And
They're wood then, aren't
They're
they?
wood, they're
Because now it's
solid
hard to
heavy
get wooden garage doors.
And when you have to lift up without the opener, it's too much.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Wow.
Well, so
Boy.
I guess it's now the laundry room too.
Ah.
But this is a grease pit.
Oh,
See if we can open
man.
this up.
That is amazing. Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
if you want to work on your car,
Do you want to get
drive
a
the car
still
right
picture
over.
of that? Yeah. That's amazing.
and so
Wow.
you drive your car right over and then work on it from underneath instead of having a lift.
So you just jump down there and.
Well, there's a ladder.
Oh, okay.
Better than jumping,
Yeah.
yes. And at the end of the grease pit is an opening into a fallout shelter,
Oh.
just in case
Just
of
in
nuclear
case.
war.